Did you know this?
25 things you didn't know in 5 minutes. Ever wondered about the colossal life of the world's largest snail, the African snail? Picture this giant reaching up to 20 centimeters in length and 10 centimeters in height. Yes, it's real, not just cartoon lore. Move over dance floors. Cockatoos are hitting the rhythm. These feathered creatures love grooving to music, showcasing their impressive mimicry skills. Head bobbing and leg tapping, they're the life of the party in the animal kingdom. Enter the romantic world of sage grouse. Listen closely to their unique sounds, a melody aimed at charming potential mates, nature's way of wooing in the wild. Flying penguins? Well, not exactly. Meet Festo's autonomous helium-filled robots, floating gracefully in a designated area. Why not have these whimsical beings in every shopping mall? Introducing the fried egg jellyfish. Wondering about the name? It feeds on sunlight, just like a plant. A mesmerizing creature that's as fascinating as its name suggests. Ever wondered how guide dogs for the visually impaired handle bathroom breaks? Follow Jaro Ivan's lead as he demonstrates the delicate communication between a guide dog and its owner. Step into the world of yo-yo championships, where competitors showcase jaw-dropping routines. A mesmerizing display of skill and precision that will leave you in awe. Mix a desktop magnetic toy, bubble ring, and a dash of smoke, and witness pure mesmerizing magic unfold. Sometimes, the simplest combinations create the most enchanting results. Meet Jessica Jacinto, a Venezuelan model with Down syndrome challenging stereotypes in the fashion industry. Follow her journey on Instagram and join the movement for greater inclusivity. Step back in time to ancient Rome, where women gladiators, known as La Beatrice, fought in the arena. A legacy often overshadowed but undeniably formidable. Listen to the symphony of long-horned grasshoppers when they feel threatened. Nature's way of communication involves rubbing their wings, creating a unique sound. Explore the behind-the-scenes of special effects in the 1958 film A Diabolic Invention, a blast from the past that reveals the magic behind classic movie moments. Experience the thrill of pedaling a human-powered monorail suspended 2 meters above ground across a 200-meter track. A unique and exhilarating adventure in New Zealand. Dive into the ethereal sounds of Between Music, a Danish ensemble creating music underwater using specially designed instruments and microphones. A truly enchanting auditory experience. Unveil the life-saving technology embedded in sports motorcycle suits. Airbags that deploy within 15 milliseconds, providing instant protection to riders' upper bodies during impacts. Ever wondered how elephants chew and swallow their food? Unveil the secrets of these gentle giants' eating habits. Meet Joseph, the inventor of useless machines. Witness his latest creation, a 5-course meal machine. Quirky, strange, yet strangely functional. Compare the jaw size of the megalodon, the largest shark that ever existed, with a common blacktip shark. It's a jaw-dropping revelation about prehistoric sea giants. Discover the PSD, a peculiar device used to sedate children before surgery in the 80s. A unique combination of headphones and a portable gaming console delivering anesthesia. Discover Peruvian clams, nature's pollution sensors swiftly closing their shells to signal water contamination. Witness the glowing waters of Mosquito Bay, Puerto Rico, where microorganisms create a mesmerizing blue spectacle during the night. Time travel to medieval Europe and unravel the mystery of the dancing plague, where people danced uncontrollably, leaving historians baffled. Explore the deserts of Egypt and encounter the colossal ruins of Ramses II, silently narrating tales of ancient power. Discover the rare occurrence of earthquake lights, where the ground emits light during seismic activity, leaving scientists intrigued. Dive into the vibrant hues of mineral lakes, like Senegal's Lake Retba, where salt content and microorganisms create nature's own palette. Venture into Meghalaya, India, where living bridges, crafted from Ficus elastica tree roots, showcase the synergy between nature and human engineering. And there you have it, a mind-expanding voyage through the unexpected. Did these 25 revelations flip your perspective? If your brain is still buzzing with curiosity, don't just watch, join us. Hit that like and subscribe button and smash the notification bell Become a card-carrying member of our League of the Insatiably Curious.